Hello, welcome to Illinois Stories. I'm Mark McDonald at Clayville, Pleasant Plains, Sangamon County. The Broadwell community, this building behind me, the Broadwell Tavern, has been here since the 1830s. Brick buildings were almost unheard of in this part of the country in the 1830s. This site, Clayville, almost disappeared. In fact, if you were standing where I am and you looked at those buildings just across the way, only maybe 30 yards away, you couldn't have even seen them last summer. But an army of volunteers came in here and they cleaned this whole area out. The Pleasant Plains Historical Society has done a wonderful job of restoring this and bringing it back, and now they've had a spring festival and they're getting ready for their fall festival, and we get a chance to tour this wonderful site here with Dan. Dan, your last name again?
Usherwood.
Usherwood, thank you. And you're really kind of the site manager here. You're with the Pleasant Plains Historical Society, and you've taken on the responsibility of looking after these buildings.
A labor of love.
Yeah, I'll bet it is. I'll bet it is. What a year it's been, huh?
It's been phenomenal. The volunteers that have come forward, the donors that have come forward to help us bring this site back. It's amazing. You couldn't have imagined something like this.
Every Saturday, this army of volunteers would work.
Yes.
And clean and dig and just cut stuff away. It must have been, well, in fact, we have pictures of the effort and we'll get to show them throughout this program. But it was phenomenal, wasn't it?
I can explain it this way. In the first 2 weekends, in this area right here, we cut down over 1,000 scrub trees.
Oh my God. Well, you must have had a lot of help too in getting rid of all that stuff, having a place to take it. You must have had a lot of cooperation from government entities, etc. Because
we did, and we had businesses. We had one gentleman that brought his tree trimming business out here for 3 weeks in a row, donated his time and his equipment to help us move and get rid of all this stuff.
Now, you're going to help us today because what we're going to do is we're going to be taking a look at your upcoming fall festival.
Okay.
And we've got some characters here who we're going to interview and who are going to show us a performance. We're also going to take a look. This Broadwell Tavern behind you is really the most significant building on this site. And you're going to take us inside.
Okay.
Let's describe the outside of this just first, though, so people get an understanding of what this was used for and how it was, why it's built the way it is.
Well, it was built sometime between 1827 and 1834. We're not exactly sure when it was. It was built in the Federalist style by the Broadwell family, who came here around 1823. We believe that it's probably the first brick structure built north of Cahokia, Illinois.
Wow.
It's a 2-story building, 7 rooms, fireplaces in every single room. All the timber and flooring is oak that was cut in this area. All of the trim work was black walnut, again cut right in this area. The Broadwells built a brick foundry here and made the bricks right here on site.
No kidding. Wow. Okay, and this was a stagecoach stop.
This
was a stop between Springfield and Beardstown.
Right.
And when we go inside, we're going to get a chance to see, really, stagecoach stops were built pretty much the same, weren't they?
Yes, they were.
They had certain divisions and rooms divided off for very specific reasons.
Yes, yes. And originally, one of the trademarks of a stagecoach stop during that time would have been a balconied porch wrapped all the way around the building. We've got some photographs of that I'll share with you, and we intend to rebuild those porches.
And boy, that's going to be really ambitious, because I imagine that's building them the way they used to. They say they don't make them the way they used to. It's kind of hard to do, isn't it?
The photograph shows you that the timbers, the upright timbers on that porch, were just huge, hand-hewn timbers.
You going to do that?
Not me.
But you'll know somebody who does.
Somebody will do it for us, yeah.
Let's go inside and take a look at this, because it's beautiful. It's been restored just beautifully. So let's take a little tour here. All right. Wow, heavy door.
Welcome to the Broadwell Inn, Mark.
I'm just amazed at how, I don't want to say clean, but it looks like it's been lived in. It looks like they're ready for guests here.
We have some wonderful lady volunteers that spend hours and hours and hours out here cleaning this place. linseed oiling, the woodwork.
This is all original, isn't it?
All original woodwork, black walnut, the mantels, the cabinetry, and Baseboards, everything are all black walnut.
And this floor is really nice. I imagine this took a lot of conditioning. I don't know what you had to do to this, but this is the original floor too, isn't it?
They have just scrubbed and vacuumed, and then linseed oiled again to bring back. Last year, these floors were almost gray.
It's lovely. The whole place is. Now, as we look around, I mean, you can see there's a lot of trim, and it's just hasn't deteriorated, which just amazes me. That sitting out here all by itself all these years, and the walnut was cut from right on this property.
Right on this property.
I'll be darned. So he made his bricks here. He cut down the trees here. The oak that they used for the timbers and the joists and everything. Was all here too.
And I don't know if it was all milled here on this site, because Moses Broadwell actually had a sawmill in what was at that time called Sangamo Town.
Okay, right.
So while they cut all the timber here in this area, they may have taken it in and milled it in there.
Yeah. So this room, as you walk in, I'm standing right where a wall would have been.
Yes.
Right down here. You can see the support beam. There would have been a wall here. Why would they separate these rooms off?
The front half of the room was the gentleman's parlor. The back half was the ladies' parlor. So when the stagecoach came in or other guests came in, they had a parlor for the gentlemen and a parlor for the women.
So the gentleman could drink, cuss, and scratch, and
maybe
play some cards and smoke, and the ladies didn't have to put up with all that stuff. Okay, let's go in the next room. I'll follow you. Okay, I think I already know what this room was used for.
Public dining room. This is where the meals were served to the guests.
How many guests do you think they'd have at a time? I mean, what was a stagecoach stop doing? Were they bringing in like 8 people at a time, maybe, or more? Than that?
I think typically the stagecoaches of that period probably held somewhere between 6 and 8 people. But I don't think they were limited to their guests were limited to just the stagecoach. We know that a lot of cattle drives came through this area. Abraham Lincoln, as an example, rode the circuit through this area, and he was the family attorney here, so he probably could have just ridden up on his horse.
And it was on the state road.
Yes.
So that anybody who might have been on a wagon or a horse would have been welcome here as well. The Broadwells didn't live here.
No, they lived about a quarter of a mile west of here, and the original foundation of the original stagecoach barn is still down there. Matter of fact, you covered it in one of your recent episodes.
Yeah, the barn's there. Wouldn't it be nice if their home was still there?
Oh,
Wouldn't that
fantastic.
Be something?
I believe that burned in the 1840s.
Take us into the kitchen.
Okay.
Now, would this kitchen have been added on? Would they have started, using an outside kitchen first?
They did. This kitchen was added on, I believe, sometime in the late 1830s, early 1840s. So all the cooking was done in this fireplace. One of my favorite things in here is this beehive oven over here, which is still operational. And I've been told by some of the historians that we talked to that there's very few of these beehive ovens still work anywhere in the country. So we're real proud of that.
And this one does work.
It does.
Well, then, like for the fall festival, you got to cook some bread. You could use it for cooking bread and probably cobbler and stuff like that, huh?
Well, we hope that as a result of this, maybe someone that does that kind of cooking will come forward.
Yeah, and say, they've been looking for a beehive oven all these years. Now they can practice one right here. Okay.
Right.
Okay. So this was probably added on at a later, did you say the kitchen?
We believe in the late 1830s, early 1840s.
Now, okay, so the cooking here, the feeding in the middle room, the parlors, that's where they would have come in and relaxed. They sleep upstairs, right?
Upstairs.
Okay, well, let's go up there. I'll follow you. Well, Dan, before we even go up to the ballroom and the bedrooms, I'd like to stop here and take a look at this because you didn't see a lot of wallpaper in the Midwest in the 1830s, did you?
You did not. And I read an interview that Dr. Pearson did, and as I think I explained to you earlier, Dr. Pearson was the gentleman who started the restoration of Clayville, him and his wife Mary, back in the 60s. In his interview, he talked about that the walls in this house were originally plastered and wallpapered, which would have reflected the wealth of the Broadwells to begin with. But he talked about this wallpaper being the original pattern that was used here. And he had found this is a pattern that was also used in Monticello, Thomas Jefferson's home in Virginia. And the paper was still available in the 60s or 70s at Williamsburg, Virginia.
Oh, wow. So you could get the pattern, still order the pattern, and if you wanted to go ahead and plaster and put wallpaper up here, you could do it without violating the real spirit of the thing.
That's correct.
Neat.
Yeah.
Ballroom. How many stagecoach stops had a ballroom? You know, that sounds so grand.
This was, as I understand it, was the one place that after the evening meal that the gentlemen and the ladies could socialize. They might have a little music up here and be able to spend some time together in the evening before they retired to the ladies' bedroom and the men's bedroom.
Okay. Before we take a look in there, this was here. This piece of furniture was here, and there's a good reason it wasn't moved out, because it probably couldn't have been moved in, right?
Yeah, can't get it out of here. And we've had a couple of people suggest to us that because there is a bead on this here that is consistent with the bead on the fireplace mantles and the window trim, that this may very well have been built and right in place.
So Mr. Broadwell himself, he worked wood, right? He was a pretty handy that way, and he may have built this right where it is. You'd hate to have to try to get this thing in or out.
I don't think you could get it out of here without taking some bricks out of the wall.
That's mammoth.
But
wow.
So it would be wonderful if we could prove that it actually was originally built here, but we believe that might have been the case.
Now, all the women would sleep in the same room, huh?
Yes, women and children would have slept in one room, and the gentlemen in another.
And of course, the old rope beds. Every room has a fireplace, and they probably would, I don't know, coal or wood. I'm not sure what they would have burned. Probably wood, I guess.
I suspect
huh?
wood. Wood was very plentiful back during those times, and you know, they certainly knew how to cut wood.
Oh, they sure did. And they had to clear a lot of it. They probably enjoyed getting rid of it. Let's look at this window here. We just missed the opportunity to see your new windows, but you're having them made, aren't you?
In a couple of weeks.
Yeah, yeah, and they're making them from the original windows, and you'll have perfect replicas, huh? That'd be neat. So for your fall festival coming up, they should be in.
The new windows should be in for the fall festival.
Great,
yes.
Great. Okay, well, I don't think the men's bedroom is much different, but let's just take a look in there anyway.
Okay. Laid out very similar.
Boy, you'd have to be good friends with everybody that you were traveling with, I'll tell you. These rooms are, of course, they were used to close quarters, weren't they?
Different than we are today. Yeah. It was very common for several people to share a bed during those times. So,
Well, Charlie Tomlin, right across the old state road from the Broadwell is the Batterton cabin. Now, I want to talk to you because this venerable old cabin has been in your family since 1817.
That's correct.
In fact, this is probably the oldest existing cabin in any of the neighboring counties around here, isn't it?
It's very likely is, yes.
1817.
Yes.
Your triple great-grandfather built this. His name was Batterton, right?
Amor Batterton.
Amor Batterton. And it was built over near Rock Creek, which is just northeast of Clayville, where we are here.
That's correct.
But the interesting story is, of course, the history of it, but also the fact that it got moved. How in the world did that happen?
Well, it was discovered entombed in another structure. The Howard Willis family decided they wanted to build a new structure. So they tore down their old house, and lo and behold, this cabin was inside of it. And this is what helped it stay so well preserved. And then in 1964, Dr. Pearson got wind of the cabin existing. The Willis family donated the cabin here to Clayville, and is where it currently stands.
Yeah. You know, except for Native Americans and a whole bunch of prairie, there wasn't hardly anything here in 1817, was there?
No, in fact, Amor Batterton was said to be the first white settler in the Rock Creek area.
Isn't this fortunate that this has been intact the way it is?
It's a precious relic that I think it's a secret that more people need to know about.
Before we go inside, Look at the fireplace and the stones on that fireplace.
Yes.
Those used to be the foundation.
Many of these stones were, yes, part of the foundation. And then, of course, Rock Creek had a quarry back in the day.
Uh-huh. Oh, that's fantastic. Let's go inside.
Okay.
Well, Charlie, as we look at the walls in here, we can see that you can almost count the logs with, with the chinking and stuff in between. It's a 10. This is a 10 log cabin.
10 log high. Typically, they were 8 to 11 logs high. This is known as a story and a half. These were native to the Rock Creek area. This is white oak, which is our state tree. And then the ceiling and the loft is black walnut, which was very plentiful. Both these trees were back in the day.
He had your great-great-great-grandfather had a big family?
Yes, he did. He had 11 children. One of their children drowned in the Kentucky River. So you could see the need. This cabin measures 18 by 20. You can see the need for the extra space.
Yeah, there is a loft upstairs.
There is a loft,
okay.
yes.
But the whole family would have utilized this room for reading or studying or for eating or for cooking, just for everything.
I can't imagine it been so crowded for them.
Yeah. Okay, and we got to see the upstairs, because if you're going to have 10 kids sleeping, we got to see that space. Okay, after you, sir.
Okay.
Charlie, these are tight steps too, and tight corners.
Yes.
But here we are in the dormitory.
I guess, if you were a child, it didn't matter much. You just probably bounded up and down those steps.
They probably had something like a sleeping bag or a mat or something to sleep on. I mean, with 10 kids, you just kind of go where you can.
Yes, yes.
It's interesting. You were mentioning that it was nice to have this cabin come to Clayville because it just sort of belongs here. These folks kind of all knew each other, didn't they?
Yes, they did. Amor Batterton was a contemporary of Peter Cartwright's and also of John Broadwell's. In fact, they all served in the War of 1812 together.
Is that right? So isn't that interesting that the cabin is right across from the Broadwell Tavern now?
Yes, and what's been interesting is I found a couple cousins I didn't know existed in the Pleasant Plains Historical Society, and then many more in Menard County.
Oh, wow.
So it's opening up a whole new area.
Yeah. Well, thanks for showing this to us.
Oh, well, you're quite welcome.
Jim Verkeilen, as mayor of Pleasant Plains, you spearheaded the effort to get this place cleaned up and looking as good as it is now. But I'll tell you what, you had a big job ahead of you, and you couldn't have done it yourself. You put out the call for volunteers, and they answered it, didn't they?
Oh, yeah. It's unbelievable the amount of people that showed up. Our first day was July 11th, and we had people of all walks of life, from not just the Pleasant Plains area, but from the surrounding areas, all the way from Quincy. We had some coming from Quincy, Jacksonville, all the way over to Champaign. We had people coming, and it brought back memories for them with coming here. But when they saw it, the first thing they came to believe, she said, it really has gone to hell. But these people came in, like I say, young ones to old ones. And some of these people that we had coming in, ladies with a cane coming in, starting to tear down the branches and everything else. Like this place, when you came in, you could not see the buildings. You could not see the buildings. But they came in and took it upon themselves to start cleaning it up. By the end of the day, you could see all the buildings. And there was nobody sitting on their thumbs. They were having really a great time. And the stories that were going on about them coming out here when they were kids, and they were having it when their parents were out here. But when you looked around and seeing these older people digging in, getting their hands dirty and everything else, it was a sight to see.
What an experience. It
really was. It really is. And that attitude is still around. But I'm sure that you're aware of now that we've got it pretty well cleaned up, I should say. We now have to have the detail work inside, so we have to bring in experts to come in and take care of that. But it's still an effort by all, and all to enjoy. Yeah, it really is.
Ron Waltrip, for the purposes of this upcoming fall festival here at Clayville, I suppose that you're dressed here as Peter Cartwright. He was the most famous preacher of his day.
Yes, sir.
And I'm assuming that he would have stumbled across Clayville at some point.